All right, let's talk boxing. Andy Lee is with us, and he's going to shock the world by giving us his power rankings of the top 10 fighters in the world. Some surprises, and no surprise, I guess, in equal measure. Andy, how are you doing?
Good, Jay. How are you?
Yeah, you ready to rip it up?
Well, I'm ready to open myself up to a lot of, I suppose, Twitter criticism. But I was asked by you guys to put together pound for pound. And my idea of pound for pound, some guys think about it of who they beat in their last fights and, you know, the champions they beat. But I would put it together as if they're all the same weight, regardless, who would win in a fight? All right. And that's my take on a pound for pound, irrespective of weight. Yeah. Who is the better fighter? Who carries the most power? Their styles, and this, you know, there's definitely three of them there who are toss-up. You know.
Don't give anything away just yet, because we'll get to that in a couple of minutes' time. But that's definitely a different way of doing it. In the meantime, though, we've got Niall Kennedy on the line. Niall, how are you doing?
Oh yeah, how are you keeping?
Yeah, pretty good. You can hear us okay, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect, yeah.
First off, congratulations on a great win at the weekend, but I understand there's no rest for the wicked. You're back at work already.
Yeah, I'm in work right now, actually, as we speak, so it's no rest for the wicked, as you say.
And you were in the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, is that it?
Yeah, Mohegan Sun in Connecticut on Saturday night there, yeah.
And a relatively straightforward win, is that how you're describing it?
Yeah, it went well. I caught him with a big right hand over around the back of the ear in the first round, so he put his hands up. He had a good defence. He kept his hands very high, so I decided to go to the body then, and it worked out well, thank God.
I watched the fight now. Well done.
Thanks, Andy.
You were looking like, I saw from the start, you were looking for the left hook to the head a lot. Was that something you'd seen before the fight, or had you watched videos and thought that was a punch that would land?
Yeah, Pascal and myself had looked at him, and he seemed to move to his right a lot, so we were trying to get him to come onto the left hook, but it was a right hook around the back of the head that made his hands come up, and he never really brought him down. He kept his hands very high, so we had to target the body then, but it worked out well, thank God.
Yeah, he was pretty much beaten after that right hand that you landed to the temple. Did you sense that yourself, that he was there for the taking?
Yeah, to be honest with you, he was more resilient than I thought, because I thought if you see in the first round I threw a flurry, I actually thought I was going to get him out of it in the first round, so he held on a bit longer than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah. That's another victory for you. Where do you see it going? What's next? Do you have any idea, or can you tell us what's next?
No, at the minute we're hoping maybe. I think Spike is possibly out in May in Vegas. We're hoping to get on the undercard of that, hopefully. And I had hoped to possibly get onto the Matchroom USA show there with Danny Jacobs, but I think that fight might not be happening now. So that's April 28th, I think.
Potentially that was a huge fight against Bika, the Polish former world title challenger.
Yeah, I think he could have watched the fight the weekend. They've decided they don't want it now, anyway. So.
A little bit too dangerous for them.
Yeah.
But it's good to be mentioned in those circles. Is that the type of level of opponent now you're looking at going ahead?
Yeah, well, when I was talking to you last week, this fight I prepared very well, and camp it went well for, but I think we took a risk with the Santos fight, but I think we're at the stage now where we could nearly take another risk, and I don't call out fighters or do anything like that, but we want to start looking to the next level now, maybe. We're
just watching a highlight of the fight at the weekend, and you were throwing a lovely right hand to the body, and you could see that Chavez was just covering up, and it was a good stoppage at the end because he wasn't fighting back, and he was, he's in real danger of being hurt.
Yeah, he had 2 broken ribs, so he had in the fight. So that's from it. So the referee, I think it was a good stoppage, because he was probably too brave for his own good, to be honest with you.
Do you feel you're punching hard now in the heavyweight division? Do you think you're a puncher?
I'm doing a lot of strength work with a fella in Gorey, Ivan Lynch, and I feel my weight transfer is better. I'm planting my feet. Pascal has been working a lot on that and just head movement. But the one thing I was really happy about in the fight was the distance I kept. I cornered the ring. I think I used my ring management was probably the best it's been so far in that fight. So, and I kept that distance where he was, even when I wasn't throwing, he was was keeping him busy because he was waiting for me to throw, if you get me.
Now, so you come through a fight like that, and it seems easy for you. Like, you know, you're, not that you didn't break a sweat in it, but like, you come out of that and you must be feeling absolutely delighted with life, and then you're immediately into the difficulties of getting the next fight. And obviously, we spoke with Andy a good bit about this last week, just how difficult it is to navigate the choppy waters and the politics of boxing. It's something you kind of need to be aware of, and you kind of need to be prepared for.
Yeah, it is, and it's, as Andy would tell you, sometimes when you come off a fight and you have no date in your head, it's hard. Like, it's hard to train and it's hard to motivate yourself when you haven't a clue what's coming, really. But I just have to believe in my team. Pascal is doing a good job with me at the minute, and I just keep the head down, keep working hard, and hopefully, even though that fight turned out to be a lot easier than we'd hoped, I think it was probably my best performance so far. So I'm just going to have to keep working hard and keep the head down and keep practicing.
And does that change your ambitions then, when you kind of see the level of progress you make as quickly as you make it? You know, you were telling Andy in the documentary during the week about like getting in sparring with Anthony Joshua. Was this moment where you realised, actually, you know what, the difference here, I understand what the difference is, but I can begin to think about closing that gap. A victory like this, you see the work, the strength and conditioning work, the power work that actually begins to pay off for you. So do you begin to think, oh, you know what, maybe I could actually, if things fall for me, start dreaming a little bit bigger even than I have been in the past?
Yeah, it is. I think I keep the head on there, the feet on the ground, and one step at a time. But I definitely believe I can go a lot further than I did at the start. Like I said to Andy, my dream at the start was to win my pro debut, and when I won that, I said, Jesus, if I could go 5 unbeaten, it'd be brilliant. And then I went 5 unbeaten. I said it'd be lovely to win a belt, and then winning a couple of the regional belts out there has been great. But now I firmly believe that I could break into the top 20 in the world, and hopefully maybe inspire a couple of young lads in Galway to get back into boxing and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, the commentators at the weekend now were talking about your style of boxing and how you've got a lot more aggressive in the last couple of fights. Is that a tactical thing, or is that a result of just having a lot more confidence?
It's both. I think Pascal and myself have been working very hard on the way I boxed at the weekend. That trying to stay in the pocket without being in range for him to catch you. But I'm definitely confident as well. I'm probably believing a little bit more in my ability, and when that all, as Andy will tell you, that all comes from training. Like, training has been really good. So.
Oh, great stuff. Congratulations, and we'll let you get back to work. Thanks a million.
Perfect, no problem. Thanks for the call, lads. God bless you.
It's 11-0, Niall Kennedy there talking to us. It's funny, he talks about being in the pocket. When we were talking to Eric Donovan before his second last fight, he was talking about how he needs to stay in the pocket a bit more. Just explain that whole concept to us, will you?
It's definitely more of a pro thing to do than an amateur thing. Hence, Eric, you know, having to adjust and learn that kind of skill. It's where you're most vulnerable, but it's also where you're most dangerous, because you're close range, your opponent's trying to hit you, but if you can land a punch on your opponent when he's throwing a punch, it kind of has double the impact, and it can be devastating. And a lot of times you see a knockout, it's when a guy's throwing a punch and the other guy's staying in the pocket and making him pay. So it's definitely a skill, but it's very dangerous and high risk.
Were you a pocket fighter?
Not for the early part of my career. At times I was, but at times towards the end I was, yeah. And
when you're practicing that, are you getting clipped a lot in training? And
it's something that you would practice more on the pads. Throwing a punch and taking your head out at the same time or after, and rolling after punches. It's a technical skill. Like if we turn to my top 10, the two guys in the top 10, the top two really are pocket fighters. They stay there in the pocket. This is my top 10, and as I said earlier, it's I've comprised it irregardless of weight and who they've beaten. But all the guys on the list are world champions and great fighters in their own right. But if they're all at one weight, how would they match out and who would win?
That's controversial, because that's not really how the pound for pound works in most, is it?
For me, pound for pound. So for pound, who wins? You know, that's where I judge it. So it's totally subjective. I'm open to be ridiculed.
I just want to warn you that Owen once did the FIFA team and left out Leo Messi, and his mentions exploded. So you might be in for a couple of days of Twitter hell.
I don't think it's going to be that controversial.
I didn't leave out Leo Messi. It was a draft. Anyway, I'm not still hung up about it. So anyway.
We should start at 10. Ryan Burnett squeaks in there. Definitely going to get a bit of...
No, Burnett deserves his spot there. Last year he beat 2 champions in his division. He became champion and defended his belt against another champion and beat both guys convincingly in 2 real grueling fights. And he's a very hungry young fighter, and I know how good he is. So for me, he deserves his spot in the top 10 pound for pound.
That's... There you go.
That's how far we go back. So that's how well I know him.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great photo.
At the Belfast Cronk. Is that still there?
It's still there.
Yeah, right.
It's still going. They still have some champions. They have a very good fighter called Tennyson, who's a lightweight professional champion. He's a pretty good fighter.
It's interesting when you look into his weight division and how BoxRec rank him in that division, that they put him as 4th in the world at this point. How, clearly you believe that he's just as good as anybody up there. Lewis Neri, I think, is the number 1 fighter in that division according to BoxRec. Can he get to that level? Can he beat him?
I think he can. He's still very young. It's just a matter of time. He's kind of almost become too soon, not for his own good, but I think he's got this defense now. He's fighting a Puerto Rican undefeated fighter who's 17-0, and that's a good step for him. It's a young fighter as well, so it'll be a good gauge for him. And once he gains experience, a little bit more experience at this level, it's hard to say that because he's a double world champion, but I think he's ready to beat anyone. I've said it before, he's the hardest working boxer I've ever trained besides throughout my career, and he's obsessional about his preparation and his mental preparation, and for me he deserves, interestingly, number 9, Nayo Inoue, pronounce that, Joseph, he's also in the bantamweight division, and a lot of people would have him maybe higher in the list. He's a very good fighter and usually wins by KO. I think he's won most of his fights by knockout, so he's really he's a sensational fighter out of Japan.
Mm-hmm. And he's only recently, I think, moved into the US market, or I think it's only once he's fought in the US, and I think his last fight was actually in Japan. So is there kind of an element that he's an unbelievable hero back home and has yet to break the US market? That's certainly how it seems to me.
But he's beaten he's beaten all of his challenges convincingly, and at world level. One thing that's interesting about my pound for pound, and most of people's pound for pound list, I did have a look at some of the others, The Ring and ESPN's, and you can see that it's a global sport now. You know, traditionally it would be dominated by America, and especially in the 90s, the 80s, and probably forever. But now you might have 1 or 2 from outside. Yeah. But now it's a global sport. You have Mexico, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Japan, Ireland. So we're in there, and boxing truly is it's a global sport. So it doesn't really matter where you're from. If you're good enough, you will get opportunities.
And there used to be a sense that one of the biggest achievements of Wayne McCullough's career was to go to Japan and win a fight there against the reigning Japanese champion, because this being boxing, there was always an assumption that no matter what you do, the Japanese guy is going to get the decision in Japan. But that seems to, not saying it's been fixed.
I wouldn't go that far either.
But at least now there's a sense that there's
Well, the thing is, the level of exposure now for these fights is huge, and they're seen globally. You know, it's not just you'd see a fight that would be only televised locally, and you'd only hear about it in early hours in the morning. You'd read about it the next day. So
you can actually watch the footage.
You can watch it, and usually, if there is a controversial decision, there's usually a rematch made immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so who else?
Well, just coming back to that, it's an interesting one when you look and just reading through, as you say, the latter stages of your power rankings here, and Inoue is how I'm going to pronounce his name, and Burnett, and how they interweave potentially via Jamie McDonnell, and how that fight could happen for both of them. Is Inoue likely to fight him soon? I saw reports earlier on this month.
There was some talk about Jamie McDonnell fighting Inoue, or Inoue, as you can pronounce it. But I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but that would be a huge fight for him and a huge step, and there was talk about him going to Japan to take the fight. I don't want to speak out of school, but I know the fight was offered to Burnett and to McDonnell to fight each other, but it just never happened.
Okay.
For whatever reason. They would be good friends. They would have sparred together a lot. Actually, when when McDonald defended his title in Texas a few years ago, Burnett was a chief sparring partner and travelled with McDonald to the fight and watched him go through the whole routine and the whole practice. So they would be very close friends. So it might be a bit of a strange one for him to fight.
Yeah, that'll be a good storyline going into that fight should it happen, though.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. It seems like they're on different trajectories throughout their careers.
So Mikey Garcia at number 8.
Well, these ones are time costs, and you could put them in any 8, 7, 6. Thurman, Spence, and Garcia. They're all very good boxers, and it's a matter of who you pick, who you favour. You know, your preference. Garcia, I remember I fought in Las Vegas. It would have been my third or fourth fight, and we were in the dressing room, and there was this kid. And he was telling us he was a police officer.
Right.
This was just, you know, boxing is something that he likes to do. His uncle was a famous boxer, Robert Garcia, was an IBF champion. And look up, 2 or 3 years later, he's still winning, and now he's in the top 10 pound for pound list, and he's a serious fighter, Garcia. And but like sitting in the dressing room back then, you would have no idea he would go on to do what he's done, you know.
So he's a super lightweight, 37-0. That's an unbelievable record he has.
Yeah, and a real solid fighter. Like the three of those guys, Spence, Thurman, and Garcia, they all do the fundamentals really well. They're not sensational in terms of they do spectacular knockouts. Well, they do have some spectacular knockouts, Thurman and Garcia particularly. But they're very sound fundamentally, and to just do everything correct at the right time. Crawford is a real throwback fighter. He's like a fighter you'd see in the 80s. I think he would be competing with the likes of Ray Leonard and Duran. But you know, back in those days, that's how good he is. So he's a real throwback and one to watch.
He's going up against Jeff Horn in April. Horn obviously had that win against Pacquiao last year, so maybe one could say Pacquiao is well past his best at this point, and that Horn win isn't actually that big. But at the same time, a win over Jeff Horn is a win over Jeff Horn,
and he beat Gary Corcoran in his last fight. You know, he's a Galway. He's a guy who he's London-based, but he has Galway family. He's got good ties to Galway, Gary Corcoran, and he beat him convincingly, and he showed a lot more, not just to be a brawler in that fight. Horn showed that he could box. So
why have you got him at 5? And like he's a little bit ahead of the lads at 6, 7, and 8.
I think I just like his style. Like I said, it's a preference. Thurman is a great puncher, great boxer, a lot of science to his work. People might just dismiss him as a puncher, but he showed he beat Danny Garcia in his last fight. He showed they can really box at the highest level and execute a game plan.
It kind of feels wrong to get excited for 2019 already, considering we've just started the year with Thurman and Spence potentially next year is what they're saying. That could be a kind of a tiebreaker almost in the second half of your top 10 there, really.
People want to see it now, but I think Thurman has an injury, and he might need a comeback fight after a long layoff.
Yeah, an elbow, I think, was it?
Yeah, then fight Spence. But either of those guys, you could place them even higher, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so let's get to the top 4 here. It's the Thai fighter at number 4. Let's see the way
you can pronounce that one. Sisarat, I say.
Yeah. So what is it about this guy? He's super flyweight. So
he's a super flyweight. He's beat Roman Gonzalez twice, who would have been in maybe 1 or 2 in the pound for pound rankings last year.
Yeah.
A fighter which I fought on the undercard of, and a very lovely man, very humble guy. Came from poverty in Thailand. I think he was eating out of the trash can. That's the story that goes around about him, and he's worked his way up through the ranks, got the opportunity against Gonzalez, which he would have been an underdog, but he went in there and he the fight was very close. The first fight was very close, could have went either way. I felt Gonzalez was hard done by a little bit, him being the champion of such high caliber and held in such regard. But then the rematch, he totally destroyed Gonzalez and really cemented his place. He won a fight at the weekend, which they have this series of, they call Superfly, which is their weight division. And they've become quite a feature now on HBO. You know, traditionally you wouldn't have had lightweight fighters of lighter weights fighting in main event fights, but now they have, because, like I said, the skill level, the entertainment, the excitement. Yeah. So
they go at it.
Yeah, and one thing about him, he definitely hasn't forgot his past, because he's so hungry when he fights. There's just a steely determination about him, and he there doesn't seem to be any stopping him.
So he's actually not that old, I suppose, for fighters anymore, but he's 31. And as well, like has 50 fights.
It's a lot of miles on the clock.
Yeah.
A lot of those fights would have been in Thailand. So, but it seems to be the way in those lighter weight divisions that it's only later on in your career that you get the recognition, you know, and it's and especially in Thailand, there would have been a lot of fighters at that weight, so he would have been able to, whereas Burnett's only got coming up to what, 20 something fights.
Yeah, 25 I think.
Yeah, so
18 wins, no losses.
He's coming up to 20 fights, so this side of the world in Western Europe and in America there wouldn't be a lot of competition. But in Thailand and Asia, they can build big records like that.
Yeah, I just can't get over how prolific he is. 18 times since his last defeat, which was in 2014. To fight 18 times and to be one of the best in the world in whatever 4 years is
12
some record, isn't it?
So the top three, Canelo, Triple G and Lomachenko. Lomachenko's number one. Lomachenko's kind of the consensus number one?
Yeah, you could argue him and Golovkin either or, you know. But he's certainly, for me, in my standards, as I said, pound for pound, irregardless of weight, he's a special boxer. I think he's a once-in-a-generation type of fighter. You can go back to Roy Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. That type of skill, like he's just genetically so gifted. He has the schooling of, like, his father is coach. He has that Ukrainian amateur school. He's such a dedicated guy. And you look on social, just look him up on social media, you see him doing all sorts of crazy things, like playing a game of tennis with himself, like where he'll hit the ball over the net, run round the far side of the net, hit the ball back to himself, sprint round the far, and get a bit of a volley or a bit of a rally going. So, he's a sensational athlete, and he's number one for me. Golovkin and Canelo could be either way. We'll find out. They're fighting in May again, May the 5th in Las Vegas, I think, and we'll see. That will determine who is the number two. Possibly go ahead to number one.
Triple G this time 3 years ago would have been number one for everybody.
Yeah, you would have had Andre Ward still fighting. It would have been a toss-up between them. They talked about fighting at one stage, but it never happened. The best amateur. I fought him as an amateur. The best guy I'd ever been in the ring with as an amateur. Phenomenal power.
You were due to fight him again, only his father died, isn't that right?
Yeah, we had signed a contract to fight him. He had signed a contract, but his father passed away, and out of respect, obviously, I wasn't too upset because I totally understood how that would make him feel. So, unfortunately, that was a fight that I had agreed to several times, but never happened. But just as well now, huh?
Is that what you feel now? It's like
no, I would have loved it. Would have been an honour to fight such a great champion, you know. And I think he'll go down the Hall of Fame. He's going to be, he'll be remembered for a long time after he retires. So it would have been great to share the ring with him, but it just never happened.
Yeah, you don't have the heavyweight champion of the world here on your list, and pound for pound, he's a big guy. If you blow everybody else up to that same size.
I was thinking if he came down to maybe like flyweight, if he came down to bantamweight, would Anthony Joshua compete? Would Deontay Wilder compete? No. They compete, but they wouldn't be winning. I don't think that's just how I see it.
Yeah, the heavyweights don't tend to have the boxing skills. They're like,
but they have the equalizer.
Yeah,
and
if you had to pick one of them, who would be your one heavyweight in that power rankings?
I would have to say Joshua. He'd beat Klitschko, and has been kind of flawless on his way to this path of destruction. His last fight against Takam.
Oh yeah.
He didn't set the world alight, but that's a late change of opponent a week to go to the fight. Takam's a very durable guy and was very negative and didn't expose himself in any way and open himself up to be hurt.
No.
So he was really in survival mode from the route one. So,
but you look at the alternative to that, and Wilder against Stiverne. Was it the same weekends? He was on certainly similar time, and the way he destroyed him.
Yeah, but that's Stiverne that showed up that night. Was not the Stiverne who Wilder had beaten a few years previous. That was a real competitive fight and a real heavyweight fight, the first fight between Stiverne and Wilder. But the last fight, Wilder made a point of just blast him out. It was a sensational knockout.
Incredible.
That's what I said. Both of those guys, Wilder especially, what he lacks technically, he makes up for in raw power, and...
Just thinking about it, right? If you're managing either of the two lads, do you not get everybody in a room and say, let's have a minimum of 2 fights and hope that we get a trilogy and make everybody super rich?
That would be a great plan. I think they'd be super rich out of one fight, but it just
When you
depends how the first time. If someone gets flattened in the first round, is anyone going to want to see it again?
I might want to see a rematch. I mean, okay, it's going to be 90-10 in terms of the earning power, but
really, I couldn't pick a winner between the two of them.
And so, like, everybody's got to buy that fight. Get it done quickly, no?
Get it done. I think
you keep kicking the money down the road.
Wilder fights this weekend. He's fighting Luis Ortiz, the Cuban guy, who's failed a drug test, who's was a doper, and I think Wilder's going to make a point of beating him because of that.
Yeah,
beating him pretty comprehensively. Yeah, in light of what's happened this weekend, I don't want to say destructively or it's like. At times like this in boxing, you have to be careful of the words you use, and
because we all lapse into that language, and actually it turns out it is a life or death thing when everybody gets in the ring.
Yeah, a stark reminder of what happened this weekend. Like Scott Westgard, a young, 31-year-old fighter, wouldn't have been heralded. He wouldn't have been on the huge circuit of high-profile fights. Just a guy who was doing what he loved, it seemed, and paid the ultimate price. It's hard to put words. You see people tweeting "rest in peace" and thoughts with the family, but that doesn't do it right. That doesn't do it justice. It's guy's lost his life, and no sport should cost that much. Everyone knows like you enter the ring, you know the risks. That's the ultimate risk. But it's just a terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah, and we as supporters who have never been in the ring completely take that for granted. Like, you go and you hoop and holler and you urge people on, but we don't really know the risks, and we don't ever limit them.
I'm in the ring, I'm in the crowd, and I'm baying for blood myself. I don't want to see a fight end in points. For me, I always want to see a fight end in knockout. That's why I go to watch fights. But you have to, at times like this, you have to be reminded. And he won the fight. It wasn't like a fight. He got knocked down in the last round, apparently. He fought a fight against Dick Spellman. He dropped Spellman halfway through the fight. They were fighting, and towards the end of the last round, 10-round fight, he was hurt, put down, kind of bumbled through the ropes, and recovered, and the bell went. Some say he was saved by the bell. I haven't seen the fight. I refuse to. I don't want to watch that fight. He came out, was conducting an interview. Some people said he didn't seem right at the interview, went back to the dressing room, and apparently the paramedics who were there on hand were very quick to react. He was rushed to hospital. He had a surgery. I think he had a blood clot scraped off the surface of his brain. And then he was fighting for 2 days, 2 nights, and that was Saturday night, the fight, and he passed away in the early hours of Monday morning. So terrible. I don't know, what do you say? How do you say it? It's like no sport, playing or competing in any sport shouldn't cost you your life. It shouldn't. But these are things you accept when you step into the ring. These are the risks that are involved.
How conscious of that are you, though, when you're actually fighting? You would have...
You never think about it.
And even so, say you were still fighting now, this news story, would you have blanked it? Would you have not read the stuff? Would you have not found out those details?
If I was fighting like I was a few years ago, really in the guts of my career, I wouldn't have looked at it. I wouldn't have read too much details.
You would have been tweeting RIP.
I wouldn't have been tweeting anything. I wouldn't tweet about anyone's death anyway, really.
Yeah.
I don't know, he's the third British boxer to die after a fight since 2013, so... And all of those guys, they were all good young fighters. 2 of them were undefeated.
So it's not like they're getting pummeled
not
in
like
the ring.
They weren't had long, hard careers or journeymen, It's usually the journeymen who know how to survive. They're the ones who know how to get around the ring and navigate a fight, but... I don't know, it's just a stark reminder for all the boxers out there and how dangerous the sport is. And it's, on a personal level, it makes me happy. Another reason to be happy about my retirement.
Is it something that you become more aware of as you progress through your career?
No, but especially the last 2 years, I've been kind of in and out of the sport, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And not just... forget about the deaths. There's been a lot of people have been in comas in the last few years. Several fighters have suffered tough and I'm still dealing with it right now. You know, recently Irish Goodland, we just came out of a coma. He'd lost the fight to Callum Smith, so that was only like late last year. So
Yeah.
it's happening all the time, and I don't know what can be done. I don't know. I think, like, I don't know what can be done. Do you take it? Can you make it more safer? I think in terms of the oxygen's there, the paramedics are there straight away. You know, it's that side of things. Kind of, they're doing all they can. But do you change the rules of boxing? Do you take away from the sport? You know, by changing the rules. It's the only thing. Like, it's no defense, but he died doing what he loved. You know, and in the interview after the fight, he was saying that he just loves the sport. And he said, I'm never going to be a champion. I'm never going to make a lot of money, but I do this because I love it. I love entertaining. I love getting in the ring. I love competing. It's a small solace, I guess, to say that you die doing what you love, you know. But I think if you asked 100 boxers, maybe 98, 99 of them would say, I'd prefer to die happy and old, you know, not doing it in the ring.
Yeah. Look, it's the only sport really where the aim of the fight is to knock the opponent out.
There's no other. You have MMA, that's it. People die in, you know, skiing or car racing, but that's not their goal is to finish first in a race. It's not to hurt the other person.
I have to sound delighted you retired when you did.
Well, so
you know, like I was kind of
and
happy when I heard the news. Is that like because so few fighters get to do it and get to come out and say, "I've had enough." I'm like, and I was champ. It was like
that's it, and walk away totally satisfied and totally at peace with myself in terms of my, you know, my own inner thoughts and my inner well-being, but
and healthy,
and it's just a tough situation and. Like, there's no words. You can say words, but nothing will give his family, you know, peace or make it easier for them now that, like, he's died.
There's always kind of talk around this, like you just stressed it there about the sport and the dangers that the sport possesses. But I wonder, ultimately, is there kind of, to a certain extent, a happier goal here if people potentially look at training and sparring sessions, and I suppose it's not going to prevent deaths to a certain extent, but in terms of damage that is done over time, is like you look at Muhammad Ali, and in that book that was released last year, the real numbers that he was taking was due to his method of sparring, which was like next one up, next one up, next one up, keep me fighting, rather than non-contact training. I wonder, is there something in that potentially, because as you already outlined, this is the sport, you know, it's not going to be changed in terms of competitive.
We watched Niall Kennedy's fight there with Chavez. Some would say that was a quick stoppage. He was getting pummeled, he wasn't punching back, but I would say that's a correct stoppage. You have to look at the fighters involved now and the way fighters are training. There's much more power orientated, and they can punch longer, they can sustain attacks for longer. And the human body, the human anatomy hasn't changed. You know, still a head, it's still a chin, jaw, still a chin, still a body. It doesn't absorb punishment any differently. But the way you can dish it out has changed. So maybe it's the referees, the governing bodies have to look at refereeing fights and maybe just erring on the side of caution. And better to be safe than sorry.
No, definitely. That's certainly something that we've all learned over the last while. Andy, good stuff. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.